Apparently, RFK Jr. appears to have filed FEC paperwork to enter the 2024 Democratic presidential primary. His website suggests he's still exploring, though, asking for input on Bobby's decision. So, RFK Jr. appears to be running. He's still saying he's just exploring, but he has filed the FEC paperwork. So that basically means it's serious. And I'm interested, Zach, do you think this hurts Marianne Williamson's chances? Because now she won't be the only other person in the race. Or do you think this will help her chances because it'll bring more attention to the fact that there are alternatives to Biden, people challenging Biden, and it'll kind of open up the primary, make it feel more like a primary instead of just one woman, on a crusade?
So I think it's a mixed bag. I think because they're going to so successfully portray and probably correctly portray RFKJ as a nutbag, and he's going to make it so easy for them. They're going to also try and do that and be like, look at this cadre of crazies that are running against Joe Biden, right? Look at, and they're going to be rude. They're going to be mean. They're going to call, look at the loony bin that's trying to, you have to be crazy to challenge Joe Biden. And they're going to be mean, nasty fuckers about this. And that's how the establishment responds. So I think that it's bad for Marianne in the sense that they're going to lump her in with RFKJ, and she already was battling an uphill climb to combat the kooky stereotype or the fucking spiritual guru, the same shit they did to Jill Stein in the Green Party, you rock worshiper, fuck, I don't care if you worship crayons, man, if you're trying to give the people healthcare, I'm with you, you know what I mean? But fucking anyways, yeah, so I think on that hand it's a bummer. Who knows what'll happen. I'll be interested to yeah, he's a legit lunatic, for sure. No other way to describe it. That's just what's bad for Marianne. They're going to portray her as one of his kind of challengers from the fake left, blah, blah, blah. Not true. But that I worry that that's going to be the angle. So it'll be important for people in the Marianne campaign to get ahead of that and make sure they really distinguish her from RFKJ because, man, we all know the kind of crowd that's going to get real excited about that and forget their principled opposition to the Democratic Party, apparently. Hey, it is what it is. We'll get into that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But on the other hand, I do think that it's always good to have more people in the race. I don't think that RFKJ is necessarily getting voters that we're going to get behind Marianne to begin with. But obviously, he's not taking voters that were probably going to go to Joe Biden. I don't know if anybody was a likely Joe Biden supporter that's going to get behind RFKJ now, right? I think a lot of the people that are going to support him are going to be non-registered voters. That'll be an uphill battle for him too. Similarly with Marianne Williamson, much of his electorate, getting them registered as Democrats in the primary states that you have to be a registered Democrat to vote. And these kinds of things will be hurdles for him. As well as Marianne. So yeah, it'll be interesting, but I think it'll be how do they respond to the fact that, the media will pay attention to this. This will be the first time you're everywhere since the day you announced and everybody was like, oh, Marianne Williamson's in New Hampshire, building a ground game. So honest opinion, I don't love this for Marianne's campaign. I'm wincing if I'm on her staff and I'm saying, how do we get a game plan together to, neutralize this problem? But it's not like it's the end of the world. Of course, more people were going to jump in the race.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I do think it's possible that because of the fact that other people jump in, because who knows, RFK Jr. might not be the last person to jump in this primary. I'm sure we have a couple other people out there that are, thinking about it. I imagine more outsider types, not anyone within the Democratic establishment. But I kind of like the idea of this becoming an oddball primary, all the oddballs decide to run because all the mainstream Democrats are too fucking cucked. They're too fucking afraid of the backlash from the establishment if they dare to challenge Joe Biden. But you got outsiders like Marianne Williamson, people like RFK Jr. It might turn into kind of a little oddball primary, which I like the idea of. John Waters, LOL. And also the funny thing about Robert F. Kennedy, of course, he doesn't have a chance, obviously, of winning this primary. But the only reason he'll make any waves whatsoever and be regarded as anything other than a total fucking crank is because of his last name, the fact that he's a Kennedy. If it weren't for that, everyone would just be like, who? What? you're running for president. What? But obviously because he's a Kennedy, that'll automatically get him a few more headlines and more attention. People give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe to an extent they wouldn't some other random anti-vax crank.
Yeah, look, the Kennedy name is only going to carry you so far, though, right? Ask his cousin how it helped him when he ran for fucking Senate against Ed Markey, right? You know what I mean? Like, nobody really, I don't think outside of legacy media really gives a shit. Oh, well, Jimmy Carter is in hospice care right now. That's why we shouldn't be laughing like that. This man is in hospice care. Yeah, but Joe Kennedy got starched, right? And he was like, at one point, he was supposed to be like the heir apparent for he responded to the Trump State of the Union. He was like, the next big guy for the Democrats, and even he got starched, and he had the Kennedy last name, and he had been what was it? He was a congressman in one of the other districts already, but it was the first time that somebody with a Kennedy from the Kennedy family had lost a statewide election in Massachusetts in like fucking forever or ever, actually. So yeah, doesn't carry the weight that it used to. Gavin's about to bankrupt himself donating to RFK. So that's just so we have something to discuss on the show next week.
Yeah. Anyway, I definitely find this an interesting development in the Democratic primary. It says RFK Jr. has spent his life fighting for American democracy and the liberties guaranteed by the Constitution. He has battled against corporate greed and government corruption to protect the children, the health, the livelihoods, blah, blah, blah. With integrity, courage, and self-sacrifice, he has led Americans in an ennobling fight to restore our country as the exemplary nation and to end the toxic polarization that divides us and enriches the elites. His steely character and unique history fighting crooked bureaucracies make Bobby the only person who can bridge the divide and fix our country. So kind of platitude, kind of just a lot of platitudes and cliches here. Nothing really as far as policy substance is concerned. Obviously, he hasn't officially announced yet, so we'll see a platform eventually if he does. But yeah, so far, I can't say I'm terribly impressed by this. It's not like he's coming out here and being like, like a Bernie Sanders type or something like that with a strong socialist message. I know some people say he's pretty good on like foreign policy, like he wants to end the wars and that he consistently talks about how the deep state killed JFK. So that's based. I mean, that's definitely based. But I am interested too. This guy is mostly known for his anti-vax rhetoric. That's like his whole shtick, right? It's interesting that he's deciding to run in the Democratic primary. You think so? Because most people that have anti-vax sentiments or that have sympathies towards those sort of arguments, they're not in the Democratic primary or party. They're in the Republican Party. So do you think that's smart? If you were RFK, would you think it would be better somehow to run as a Democrat?
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I was bringing up earlier when I talked about how much of his base is going to be people who aren't registered Democrats for that primary. I think that's an interesting decision for him, unless he's planning on just kind of going up there and throwing mud and then doing a break and running as an independent. Which hey, fair strategy. We've advocated that Marianne do that if she gets a decent turnout in the primaries, which she already, in the polling, which she already has indicated by the polling that, at least a decent amount of people are interested, right? So yeah, I think it's an interesting maneuver, but I think he just knows that he can't go up against fucking Donald Trump, right? And he's also a Kennedy, and the Kennedys were Democrats, man. And I think he's trying to run in that family lineage. And also, I thought it was hilarious that he was like, as a Kennedy, he's like unironically talking about how he can like fucking help us overthrow the elites. I'm like, bro, you have a net worth of $50 million, and your last name's fucking Kennedy. Okay, your dad was one of the most powerful men in America until he got shot. Okay, just like your uncle was one of the most powerful men in America before he got shot, and your grandpa was one of the most powerful men in America until he died peacefully in his sleep, right? Fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's also pretty funny. I guess in that sense, he's really not much of an outsider. I just consider him one because of his like unorthodox views on COVID. So he kind of feels like an outsider, but you're right. I mean, obviously he's part of like the fucking biggest political dynasty in America.